to Philadelphia, where the Eagles were practicing this morning. They were one of the first teams across the league that was on the field. Jalen Hurts there, of course, trying to reverse course from what happened toward the latter part of last season. This team, of course, feels like they've got a lot more left in the tank, wanting to get back to a couple years ago when they made it to the Super Bowl. Here's Sal Paolantonio with head coach Nick Sirianni.
All right, Nick Sirianni, day 3 of your training camp in the books. What has most impressed you about your football team so far in training camp?
I just love how they're all out here working their butts off and really going after it, and then just being there for each other. You know, that's the cool thing about football is the selflessness that comes up when you the things that you have to do to help somebody else succeed and vice versa, that we're all dependent on each other. I just love that selflessness because you know when you have that selflessness, it's going to lead to a good team.
What has Saquon Barkley meant as an addition to your football team thus far?
Man, I love, obviously the play speaks for itself, right? Like there's some plays that happen on the sideline that it's almost, he gets the ball on the sideline and we had a play the other day. And one of our defensive guys, I think it was Q, came up and you know, broke down on the sideline, didn't let Saquon cut back, and it brought me back to like last year and the year before of like how many times we showed Saquon on the sideline. Like if this guy gets on the sideline, you better make sure you break down because he can make. I've seen him make so many guys miss and showing all that. Well, how great is that to have on your team? And then stuff like this, like Saquon comes up to me today, and it's a period like. We had a compete period today, but it wasn't the compete period yet. And he goes, "Hey, what's the score of the period right now?" I'm like, I really wasn't counting, but he was because he's a competitive dude, and I love that because it brings out the competitiveness in everybody else. So great player, great leader. Really enjoy having him on our football team.
Thanks so much for your time. Good luck this year, Nick.
So, appreciate it.
Man, can't wait to see what Saquon does when they play the Giants. All right, maybe too soon. Philly starts off the season with back-to-back primetime games, playing the NFL's first ever game in Brazil against the Packers, and then facing the Falcons on Monday Night Football in Week 2. The Eagles have an early bye in Week 5. They play their first division game in Week 7, and they'll close the season with 3 straight matchups against NFC East foes. One of the big changes, of course, has been that they bring in Kellen Moore as the offensive coordinator, and then on the defensive side, Vic Fangio is the defensive coordinator. Nick Sirianni, Dan, knew he needed to make those changes. Yeah. How does Kellen Moore change this offense to maybe favor what Jalen Hurts needs to do a little bit better?
Yeah, there's going to be a lot more pre-snap motion. There's going to be a lot more changes in personnel. That's a little bit of a Kellen Moore identity. There's going to be a significant jump in some of the pass game concepts that have a little bit more NFL flair to them. I do think we'll see a little bit more of the nuanced RPOs. But when you talk about the Eagles coming off of last season, and then we pop that schedule up, my goodness, how important is that first month? Mm-hmm. Yeah. You know, Lewis made the point before of the youth, and there's question marks. Not only that, they lost 7 of their final 8. This is an organization in a city that just doesn't deal with things not going a certain way. And that first week, or that first month, you could sit here and say, let's take Jalen Hurts to take some time to learn this offense. I could sit here and say, man, this team could be 0-4.
Ooh.
I could sit here and also sit here and go, realistically, I could sit there, watch them be 3-1. Look, they could lose to Green Bay. And the Falcons, with their offensive talent, with the defense in Philly that's young and, you know, unproven, and then they got at New Orleans, at Tampa, they got to get off to a fast start to kind of quiet some of the, I guess, the concerns coming off at the end of the season.
Yeah, that first month, those first 4 games, to pick up where you left off about the defense, in particular the secondary, which had its issues last year, right out of the gate. Look, Jordan Love's got all his horses back.
Yep.
I played with all my dudes. We all came in here. Look, we're all 25 and younger. I just got paid. Everybody's fired up. Everybody's talking about us. You think the ball's not going to be in the air? You think Josh Jacobs isn't going to be rolling?
Right.
Look, you're going to get tested. Vic's side of the ball, that being Vic Fangio, the new defensive coordinator, that side of the ball is going to get tested. We know Vic likes to run that match quarters too high, shell-type defense, likes to keep it in front, rush with the people up front, keep 4 more in the back end, not expose our corners too much. They're going to have some youth on the corner too now. I mean, Quinyon Mitchell's going to have to play from Toledo. Cooper DeJean's going to have to play, whether it's safety corner, who knows. But, yeah, I think, to me, as much as there's so much talk around the offensive side of the ball, I want to watch the defensive side. That's what I want to watch.
You're raising defensive questions.
You don't like defense, remember? You hate the defense.
You're just like Jalen Blake.
I'm going to take us back to the offense. And I'm going to go.
I know you are.
And I'm going to go to Jason Kelce.
Yeah.
And Sal Palantonio said this morning that Jason Kelce wasn't walking through the doors of that facility, but he is walking through the doors of our facility on Thursday night when we have the Bears-Texans game. And that's great for us, but not so great for the Philadelphia Eagles.
No.
So it's going to be on Cam Jurgens, the center, to try to replace Jason Kelce. That's a blow to the offensive line that has to be ready for a tough Green Bay Packers defense in week 1, that Friday night in Brazil for both teams' opening game.
They started out 10-1. They ended up 1-6. They're changing offenses. This is Jalen Hurts' 8th coordinator in 10 years. He reminded the media of that. The Bears that we just mentioned are going to be in that Hall of Fame game. They were practicing earlier today. Lewis, what stuck out to you?
But Caleb Williams is a fantastic talent. There's just no question about that. You see the ability to operate outside of structure, the second reaction throws on the perimeter. I mean, he's just a wonderful talent. It's how can he operate inside of structure behind an offensive line that's very good by all objective measures, a set of perimeter weaponry that rivals any team in the NFL. The question right now, the biggest question for me for them, Laura, heading into this season is new OC Shane Waldron. Can you tie it all together week after week after week and get this young man to play to his optimum?
So we talk about the Houston Texans a ton and how young and talented their roster is. You can make the case that the Green Bay Packers with newly signed quarterback Jordan Love is as young and as talented as Houston is. And Houston's the belle of the AFC, but they are so diverse on the outside. Their offensive line is very much so a strength. They've got good young pieces on their defense. New defensive coordinator Jeff Hafley is going to be way more aggressive. But these young receivers and Jordan Love developing together is the storyline in Green Bay.
Here's Jordan Love from earlier today.
I mean, just this place alone, being the Green Bay Packers quarterback and all the great QB play that's been here for the, however long it's been. But there's definitely responsibility and, a certain play style and, a certain leadership style that you got to have be here. But it feels good. I mean, it's definitely just goes to show, the Packers putting their trust and their faith in me for the next 4 years. And it's something that I'm focused on earning every day and going out and put my best foot forward for them, for the team, for the organization, and everybody. And like I said, chasing that goal of winning a Super Bowl.
Certainly when these quarterbacks, any player, makes all this money, there is more pressure. It's no secret that we saw Jordan Love with that great QBR toward the latter part of the season last year, and he certainly, in my eyes, proved why he's deserving of a lot of this money and this attention. But, Dan, there are probably still some things about his game because he does have a relatively small sample size in the NFL that you want to see changed. What should he improve as he heads into next year?
I still think there's growth mechanically. Jordan coming out of school, it was this guy's made more wow throws and plays than any kid in the draft. And then his first couple years, we didn't get to see him a ton. In the first half of that season from last year, there were still flaws mechanically. He still stood straight up with his legs in his lower half too much. His feet came together way too consistently, and so that affected his accuracy. And I think the credit goes to him and the Green Bay Packers that, they stayed true to trying to continue in the midst of the season, pushing that development and that mechanical improvement. And then all of a sudden, it clicked. And then he wasn't thinking about it anymore, and the play just followed. And then when he wasn't thinking about it, the natural instincts kicked back in because he was mechanically sound. So I still think there's mechanical improvement. We talked about this before. He's an inexperienced player. He's not young.
Right.
He's not. This isn't a second-year NFL pro. It's a fifth-year NFL pro that just happens to be in his second year as a starting quarterback. So still improvement, but he's such a young and talented player. I have no question that that's going to continue to happen.
What's so cool about this situation is they obviously feel as though there's nothing we can't fix with this guy.
Right.
Look at the money. Look, we're good. We understand what kind of what kind of trajectory you're on. What's interesting about this, Dan, when you're talking about improvement, just objectively speaking, and then when you watch the tape, it kind of shows up. His decision-making outside the pocket, as athletic as he is, it wasn't as good as he was in the pocket. He looks just about as calm and poised and methodical in the pocket as a guy who's been playing a lot more than one full season as a starter. It's when he got outside of structure that things started to go a little bit haywire for him. But, man, the simultaneous growth of Luke Musgrave at tight end, Tucker Kraft at wide receiver, Romeo Doubs, Christian Watson, Jaden Reed, all these guys, what it's like when you go to college and like all the guys in your class, you just feel like a
go
natural
together.
bond to.
Yeah.
You're like, hey, we're going to take this thing.
We're going to elevate it.
They have developed the exact same thing in the pros with
good
these
point.
dudes. I mean, how cool is that?
Yeah.
This might be the most talented young roster in the National Football League.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're right.
Might be the most talented
They're
young
so
roster
young.
in the NFL. And it's amazing how far it has come, how quickly. Because if we go back to May of last year, the Green Bay Packers did not pick up the fifth-year option on Jordan Love's contract.
Yeah.
And now, some 14 months later, he signs a contract that will pay him on average $55 million a year. And they're not paying any wide receivers big money on their roster. They're not paying tight ends on their roster big money.
It's a good window.
They have a real window here to do something with all the great young talent on this roster.
You know what I found interesting hearing him talk right before we came on? He said I've learned that there's a responsibility in playing style and leadership style. And I think we kind of take the quarterback position so often, and we only talk about it when it comes to the performance, the results. And Green Bay has 30-plus years of the quarterbacks playing at a certain level on a consistent basis. So not only that time sitting behind Aaron developed him as a player, literally on the field, but developed his style of play, developed that leadership style on a daily basis.
Can I just finish it up with one defensive player mention?
Yeah. I know. We haven't talked about Jeff Hafley, the new
I just
defensive
want to say this, 'cause
coordinator.
you mentioned Jeff Hafley,
Yeah.
right? Just remember this name, folks. Edgerrin Cooper.
Love it.
Linebacker.
Second-round pick from Texas A&M.
Yeah.
He's going to blow your mind.
Yeah, that dude's a beast.
Think Fred Warner. I'm just saying.
I'm
just
glad
going to
you
leave it
got
there.
that in.
Edgerrin
Okay.
Cooper, remember the name.
Now-
He's a freak show.
One of the reasons why Jordan Love probably got paid at this level is because of the way that he knocked the Cowboys out in the playoffs.
As a passionate Eagles fan, diving into the analysis of a potential trade involving Josh Sweat and the implications it holds for our defensive strategy is both intriguing and thought-provoking. The proposition of trading Sweat to the Carolina Panthers for a 2025 second-round pick and Klavon Chaisson is a multifaceted move that deserves a thorough examination of its potential strengths and weaknesses. Strengths and strategic considerations. Depth and versatility on the defensive line. The Eagles' defensive line has always been a cornerstone of our success, and the idea of bolstering it further with a trade is exciting. While Josh Sweat has been a reliable contributor, acquiring a former first-round pick like Klavon Chaisson offers a chance to infuse fresh talent and potential into our edge-rushing core. Chaisson's athleticism and upside, despite his modest career sack total, provide an opportunity for our coaching staff to unlock his full potential in a new environment. Financial flexibility and future planning. Sweat, entering the final year of his deal, represents a potential financial decision for the Eagles. If the front office doesn't foresee extending him, trading him now to gain a valuable second-round pick in 2025 is a strategic move. This not only prevents losing him for nothing in free agency, but also ensures we have assets to continue building for the future. The Eagles have a history of astute draft planning, and an additional high draft pick aligns perfectly with Howie Roseman's approach to sustained competitiveness. Faith in emerging talent. This proposed trade underlines the confidence in our current roster's young pass rushers, particularly Bryce Huff and Nolan Smith. Huff's arrival and Smith's anticipated leap in his second year are critical factors. If the coaching staff believes they can step up and fill the void left by Sweat, it demonstrates a robust development pipeline. Huff, known for his pass-rushing prowess, and Smith, with his first-round pedigree, represent the next generation of Eagles defenders ready to make their mark. Brandon Graham's leadership and experience. Even with the potential departure of Sweat, the presence of seasoned veteran Brandon Graham cannot be understated. Graham's leadership, experience, and consistent performance provide a steadying influence on the defensive line. His ability to mentor younger players like Chaisson, Huff, and Smith is invaluable, ensuring that the unit remains cohesive and effective. Potential risks and challenges. Depth and immediate impact. Trading away a proven player like Sweat, who recorded 6.5 sacks last season, inherently carries risk. Sweat's departure would place significant pressure on newcomers to deliver immediately. While Huff and Smith have shown promise, relying on them to replicate or exceed Sweat's production could strain our defensive depth, particularly if injuries occur. Chaison's development and fit. While K'Lavon Chaisson has potential, his career thus far has been underwhelming. Integrating him into our defensive scheme and maximizing his abilities will be crucial. The Eagles' coaching staff must ensure that Chaison's transition is smooth and that he quickly adapts to our system to provide the desired impact. Conclusion. The proposed trade for K'Lavon Chaisson in exchange for Josh Sweat is a bold move that balances immediate needs with long-term planning. It reflects the Eagles' strategic mindset, leveraging current assets to secure future value while demonstrating confidence in our young talent. While the trade carries inherent risks, the potential rewards, financial flexibility, draft capital, and the development of promising players make it a compelling consideration. As the season progresses and the trade deadline approaches, keeping a keen eye on this possibility could reveal whether it's a gamble worth taking. Fly, Eagles, fly.
Vasco e 777 dão entrada em suspensão na Justiça e interrompem também a arbitragem por 90 dias. Parte da ação no tribunal e na Câmara da FGV, antiga investidora vascaína, atende ao comando da seguradora ACAP, em tentativa de resolução e venda do futebol vascaíno. A diretoria do Vasco e a 777 Partners deram entrada nesta quarta-feira no pedido de suspensão da ação na Justiça. A medida vale por 90 dias e foi tomada em comum acordo com a ACAP, seguradora americana que assumiu o controle da 777. As partes também pediram a suspensão da arbitragem na Câmara da FGV, pelo mesmo período. A arbitragem estava na fase de escolha dos 3 árbitros. O Vasco indicou a advogada Ana Tereza Basílio, enquanto os representantes dos americanos escolheram o advogado Maurício Almeida Prado. A FGV enviou lista com alguns nomes para a escolha consensual do 3º árbitro, o que iria acontecer nos próximos dias, mas está suspenso agora por decisões das partes. A suspensão também da arbitragem atende à demanda da ACAP e do Vasco, que buscam solução a curto e a médio prazo para a venda da SAF do futebol do clube, para diminuir o prejuízo da seguradora americana. Num primeiro momento, a 777 pedia 120 milhões de dólares, mais o complemento do contrato, o que significava na moeda brasileira cerca de R$1 bilhão. Hoje a expectativa é de que essa revenda se dê em outros níveis de acordo com a demanda do mercado, uma negociação provavelmente mais barata para os interessados. A diretoria tem sinalização de interessados de dentro e fora do Brasil e entende que o movimento da ação contra a 777 foi positivo até a chegada do estádio atual.